Hi, thanks for checking in this week. I'm really excited this week. I'm going to begin a project for 2022 to offer a little insight from a native New Yorker's perspective of New York City neighborhoods and their history and their development. First, let me say, so nobody feels slighted, that New York is made up of 5 boroughs. The one you hear the most about is Manhattan. But there is also the Bronx, which is Bronx County, which is to the north of Manhattan. You can get to it just by a short train ride. Today, it was much harder earlier, and it used to be made up of small farms. Staten Island is across the harbor and the Narrows, and where the Hudson River and the East River converge, and it's probably the least populated of the boroughs. Brooklyn is kind of to the east and south, and it actually was its own city until the late 1800s, when it became a borough of New York City. Queens is to the east of Manhattan across the East River and goes out until you hit Long Island. I would say that Queens probably was the only borough which was originally founded by the British. But I digress. We are mainly going to be talking about Manhattan because that is what most people know. Manhattan, many people know and should know, was founded by the Dutch. It was originally a trading post for the East Indies Company. And that was at the southern tip of Manhattan. All these boroughs were originally Dutch settlements in the early 1600s. The Manhattan was named, and New York City, or the area, was named New Amsterdam in 1626. Then, interesting to me, in the late 1600s, the East Indies Company sold all this land to the British, and with the understanding that the Dutch settlements not be disturbed. This is, I thought this was kind of interesting. Apparently, they were involved in a huge failure on sugar plantations in Brazil and were strapped for cash. So they sold all these lands to King Charles. King Charles then, in turn, gave the lands to his brother, the Duke of York, who proceeded to rename the area New York. This is of special interest to me because my ancestors were those early Dutch settlers. And I've always wondered why they became such Anglophiles, which they were. But that's very, very old history. The island of Manhattan was apparently purchased from the Indians by a Dutchman named Peter Minot, who purchased the island of Manhattan for 60 guilders, or $24. The price today, I've heard someone say, would be about $1,000 something. Very good real estate deal. or our first dirty real estate deal. But I really want to talk about all these boroughs have individual neighborhoods, and they are all very distinct. And each of them has its own history. And I want to, in these videos, talk about the development of those neighborhoods, their histories, and how this huge, glorious city came to be. You know, early on, as populations grew, people moved north in Manhattan, and neighborhoods were formed. In later years, some of the earlier neighborhoods were repurposed, particularly neighborhoods which were used for manufacturing. So what I'm going to do in these videos is I am going to talk about individual neighborhoods, primarily in Manhattan. If we have time and there's interest, I'll move to Queens. The other three boroughs I really don't feel confident talking about. I don't know enough. But I'm naturally going to start in Manhattan in neighborhoods that I grew up in and have lived in as an adult. And I'm hoping with these videos to begin a conversation, to not have it be one way. I'm hoping to get comments back either on my facts, if you think they're incorrect, or your impressions. If you live in a neighborhood now and have a different impression of it, you know, I'd love to hear it. Let's get a conversation going. So I am planning on doing a neighborhood a week. I'm giving myself a little latitude if I don't make it one week. But that's the plan. Welcome to 2022, and let's try to have a great year.